So good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Mario. My name is Lav Savir. I'm the Chief Architect for AllCloud. I'm also the founder of the company. I started back in 2008. So welcome, Mario, my good friend. Would you introduce yourself?
Shalom, everyone. My name is Mario de Felipe. I am Global Business Development Director at Linke IT. I'm also one of the co-founders of the company. And here, I am very happy to join with my also friend Lav to explain the partnership that we already have been sharing with AllCloud for quite some time with you all and give you insights of the SAP market momentum right now.
Yeah, yeah. It's thank you for having this session. I mean, both of us, I think, had a very similar journeys, and we met on the way, and we're happily collaborating. All right. So a couple of words about the companies we're representing, and I think what's unique is about the situation. We are leading two premier partners, and we are, even though very well collaborating. So I want to ask you, Mario, first, what did you find with this partnership, and what is the purpose of partnering with AllCloud?
Yeah, well, for us, it's very important to partner with companies like AllCloud. It's not easy to find in the ecosystem of partners of AWS companies which are determined to be enterprise focused. So for us, that we are very focused on the SAP world, it's almost very important to partner with other companies that can provide the full range, the full scope for the customers to achieve a pure and a total digital transformation. So our SAP expertise and approach for the customers leave some parts in order to be covered when we are talking about big projects and enterprise engagement projects. And AllCloud was the partner that we were looking for to help us, and also from our portfolio to help AllCloud to give these customers a complete vision on a true digitalization of an entire landscape, not only SAP.
Yeah, so I can say from my side, yeah, as you mentioned, AllCloud is looking at broader migrations, larger transformations, but we realize on this journey working with customers that the SAP landscape needs a very specific expertise, which we do not have in the company, even though we do have a lot of other competencies, specializing in migration, in security, in the DevOps, machine learning, and also an MSP partner. We identified that the SAP needs a special attention, so we decided to partner with Linke, and you'll see later in the presentation how we collaborate within these projects to make sure that the customer gets the most on their SAP migration journey. So I want to ask you, Mario, who are your customer base and where are they located, and where are you mostly active in?
At Linke, we are premier partners of AWS in EMEA, mostly. So our customer base are mostly located in the continental Europe, but also they are located in different regions, like, for example, Israel, where we have one successful project going on right now with you guys. We are located also in the Emirates with 4 active customers in the Emirates, also Egypt. But also we cover, at Linke, we are located physically in Spain, Portugal, France, Austria, and Sweden to cover the Nordics. So basically, we do cover what it's the entire European region and Middle East, so EMEA. But also, we have been running several projects in the United States, big projects in the United States. But let's say that the focus that we have as a company, given the circumstances that we don't have offshore services, we are not serving our expertise from abroad, is basically EMEA focused right now. And what about you? What about you, Laf? Your customers, where are they based on?
So AllCloud is operated in Europe and in EMEA and North America. Our headquarters is in Tel Aviv, but we do have operation centers in Romania, in Germany, in Munich, in Berlin, and also in North America. We're looking mostly at large customers and medium and enterprise accounts that are fairly complex and fairly require a high level of compliance and security. And as I said, we specialized on large transformations. You can see banks, insurance companies, leading high-tech organizations, a wide range, but I think all of them are very complex from the transformation point of view. And we are definitely glad to be key leaders in this cloud transformation.
Yeah, very good to see, by the way, that you don't serve on a specific industry. So I see that you cover entire enterprise market, same as we do. For example, because the breadth of SAP in the customers give us, and the way that we are approaching the projects and we are developing these projects for the customers, give us the benefit to not to focus ourselves on a specific industry, right? And we can provide this value to customers ranging from banks, as you mentioned, insurance, hotels, retail, any kind of customers, right?
Yeah.
So what are essentially the CIOs from the companies, the CEOs as well? What are they approaching you, Laf, when they come to the cloud in order to do this digital transformation? What are they looking for?
So I can say that the most of the sales we are seeing are mostly looking after three key areas when they drive their business to the future. I think that the first and foremost thing we see is they're looking to digitalize. They want to build their business to be very digital, especially these COVID days. Everything has to be digitalized, has to be done remotely. Customer communication has to be very dynamic, and we cannot do that face to face these days. So the digital is accelerating a lot over the past few months, but this has been there before. But I think with COVID, it just got accelerated. The second thing which we see very, very frequently is about operational excellence. The cost of operating a technology organization is very heavy. So anything we can do for them to operate in a more efficient way helps them and is their first priority. And the last thing is aligning to the business and being innovative. CIOs in the past used to be just serving the organizations. Today, they are very much part of the leadership and are key enablers. So they enable this innovation. But I want to ask you, Mario, from your point of view, more specific to the SAP landscape, why is it an interesting moment for the SAP customers to consider AWS?
Well, SAP, as everybody knows, is a very robust product. But we are talking about the classical SAP ERP, the one coming from the old days called R3. It was transformed into another product called ECC, part of the ERP suite, right? This product is very stable. This product has been around for many years. It was released in 2005, so it's been 15 years at that time. And a lot of customers are using that product, right? But it's not all SAP. So right now, these customers that are using that product, that particular product, are being, let's say, pushed, are being guided from SAP to migrate to the new product of SAP. It's called S/4HANA. The S/4HANA adoption is going relatively well if we hear from SAP perspective, but it's not going as fast as SAP would like to go, right? And that creates like an interim period right now where we have a lot of customers that want to engage this digital transformation, that they want to do this innovation. And then we have on the other side SAP focusing their efforts in this new product. So what they are basically saying is go to the new product where you are going to find a lot of innovation. And we have a lot of customers that have invested a lot of money in that classical ERP ECC system. But they say, what am I going to do on this time until I go to the next product, right? Because it's not easy to change a product. It's not an upgrade. It's a change of a product, right? So basically, what they are doing is embracing the cloud, and I'm talking before the COVID. They are embracing the cloud in order to do innovation on their platforms, on their infrastructure, on their business processes, leveraging everything that the cloud is able to communicate with SAP. Now, since the COVID, we have seen many of these customers also embracing the cloud to take advantage not only about the innovation, but also about the flexibility that the cloud is bringing. Let me give you two examples. One of the biggest SAP on AWS implementations, or at least most innovative ones, it's a German retailer called Zalando that has been very successful since the COVID, like any other online retailer. And on the other hand, and they required their infrastructure to expand very quickly. But on the other hand, we have hospitality, we have hotels, we have several customer base which require this elasticity to be on the other side. Let's say my business is going down, so I require this elasticity to help me out to overcome these next months that are going to be difficult.
So you touched on Zalando. I think is a great example of a company which is very innovative and is also an Amazon public reference. What do you think, from your point of view, from SAP landscape point of view, made them so successful running their key commerce as well as the SAP on Amazon? Couldn't they do it in other places? What is the unique value they're able to get from this kind of operation?
Well, if we look at, we have a lot of different enterprise levels and businesses, right? But if we look any startup, how they build, how they grow their business, all of them start in the cloud. If we look at Dropbox, Netflix, Zalando, as you just mentioned, any product, Zoom, any product that we are using right now today is already using the cloud. So what we are trying to do is making the SAP customers to be as effective, as innovative as any other cloud native customer is able to do so. So basically, these customers that are so successful using SAP on AWS, what they try to do is opening up their SAP environment and consume as many cloud services from both SAP Cloud Platform that we will discuss later, or AWS native services on their own. And what they require is partners like AllCloud, like Linke, that can speak the cloud language in the way that they can easily understand, because it's not as easy as it sounds to start innovating in the cloud. So what we require is someone that can speak the enterprise language in the cloud that can help the business to embrace these new technologies, but also on a secure way, and also with the depth of knowledge that a partner, which is a premier partner from AWS, like AllCloud and Linke, can provide to these customers.
Yes, I do want to just touch on one quick point, is the vision we are driving with our customers is, and we have seen a very clear evidence for it, that those successful organizations who are really innovative and are accelerating their business, they are leveraging those modern platforms provided through the cloud. It could be different platforms. We are focused on AWS as the cloud platform, but I think what I'm trying to say is the key element for success and being innovative is a very modern platform. So this is the reason we are encouraging our customers to move into the cloud, to modernize their IT platforms, and then allow them to grow up and be very innovative. I do want to share with you our vision to how we see the future of the IT infrastructure. As of today, enterprises have different kind of hardware laid in different locations and very, very complex architectures, which is a combination of lots of vendors. As we see the evolution of the cloud rolling out, we are seeing very clear direction of a tight integration and trying to leverage technologies that are across the stack, starting from IoT, connected devices, mobile services, through devices which are on premises, like Outpost and like Snowball, through the different components of the cloud, the edge and the core. And I think the key difference that we are going to see in the future following this kind of architecture and infrastructure approach will be that you can leverage a set of tools that starts from the very far end in the region all the way to the connected. The cost of ownership of this environment will reduce a lot, and this is how we see this thing growing. Now I'll ask you, Mario, how does the SAP landscape can benefit from either running in the core region or on premises, but still leveraging AWS?
Yeah, well, there are as many SAP infrastructures as customers we have in the world, but there are a lot of things that are coming into common when we look at how they operate, right? Before the cloud appeared, we could still see customers running SAP systems distributed around the globe, and that was because the latency, the network in the 2000s is not the network that we do have today. We didn't have this technology that we have available today, right? So we cannot expect our customers to operate the same way as they were operating, as we mentioned, when the SAP ACC system was released. But essentially, many of these customers still operate that SAP environment. And on that technologies, right? Many of them are still running in physical servers. Many of them still run on VMware. And what they are trying to do is how to make these systems as innovative as they can using these technologies. So the reality is that when we look at how the cloud vendors, in our case AWS, generates the regions around the globe, what we see is that every region it's released, it follows the same pattern. First, probably public sector customers come in because of regulatory reasons that they need to keep some of the data in the country. And then the industry, but the industry is not more. It's not because they are less innovative, right? The industry, what they want to do is to have the best cost-effective, and the way that we are looking today, our cloud services. We don't care where our cloud service is located. When I open my email, I don't care if my Google, Microsoft, or whatever email provider is that serving that information from? I don't care if it's in Spain, if it's in France, or in Germany. What I do care is that my emails is reachable, is secure. I only have access, and I have all the security in place, and my times to connect are the best as possible. So what we are trying to do is providing the infrastructure to do enterprise level grade infrastructures in the cloud. And a couple of years ago, the SAP ecosystem was a little bit more greenfield on that particular topic. But these days, I can almost say that any SAP customer is either looking into the cloud or deciding which cloud infrastructure they are going to put their SAP systems on.
I want to ask you a question. So let's say I'm a customer that I have my SAP, but it has to be somewhere around my on-premises environment. I do want to leverage the cloud. Let's say my test environment, I can run anywhere because it's just for development, for testing, but my real production environment maybe has to run close to my mainframe, to my AS400 environment. So what is the way to do that other than buying servers? I mean, how can I leverage AWS for this purpose?
Essentially, it's important that we do have, in SAP system, we have two types of connections. We have system to system and user to system. System to system, as Rizan mentioned, is that I need to connect my SAP system to whatever system my SAP is interfacing to. And that normally, if all my REST environments were located into a data center, I require a direct one-to-one line. In the AWS world, it's called direct connect, right? But the reality is not there today. The reality is that a lot of software as service products started to appear. A lot of customers are already using a Microsoft Power BI on one side, Google on other side. Then a lot of Salesforce, Workday, and the reality is that our systems always are connecting not only to the on-premise, but also to other cloud providers. So what we need to understand is that as CIOs, as enterprise architects, we need to provide a complete interconnectivity. And the way that AWS is designed, what we can do is also to leverage the own AWS infrastructure using edge locations, as the one that you have in the slide right now, where we can connect any system in Israel, for example, using the edge location located in Israel to connect to the AWS cloud using that edge location. The same way as, for example, you are in Israel and you are watching Netflix, and the Netflix is working seamlessly, and you don't care if that movie is being served from the United States. What you have is that the connection to the Israeli endpoint is working perfectly, and this is the way that we are architecting the SAP systems these days.
Yeah, so let me emphasize. So on this point, I think it's really, really important, especially to, I think, Israeli customers. So yes, AWS has this global accelerator capability, which is part of the edge location. So in the technical terms, eventually this is an IP address that is physically located in Israel. And if you ping it, you see a couple of milliseconds latency, which is then directly attached to the Amazon backbone. So if you do want to serve your SAP from the region, but the access to your SAP environment will be very, very local and very close to you onboarding to the AWS core network. And this is definitely guaranteeing a very high SLA, very good performance, and it is protecting the customers from being impacted by whatever international traffic going up or down or ISP changes. This is directly going on the AWS core network. I want to ask you, Mario, so when did AWS started the journey and how did it start all this journey of SAP on AWS?
Yeah, well, basically, AWS was the first platform to be certified by SAP. When that happened in the year 2012, we started to move some of our customers back there in Spain to use AWS. I remember that day only development systems were allowed to be on the cloud. But that created a lot of momentum at that time. Since there, AWS has been expanding their SAP partnership, as we will see on the next slide. And also, it's interesting that since SAP started to get bigger customers, they had the requirement to create bigger instances only focused on SAP, like the X family. So let's say that and we are very proud to say that the day that SAP certified the X instances to become productive, we were one of the first partners to implement this instance family on one of our customers in Europe. And on that day was one of the biggest business warehouse on HANA implementations in the AWS cloud.
Mario, you mentioned the X family of instances. What is so unique and about the specific about the X family? Why is it needed?
One of the SAP, so the future of SAP is around the HANA. The HANA is a database, even it's also called a platform. It's more let's say it's more a database. So what it makes unique the HANA is that everything stays, everything important stays on memory. So it's a system that requires a humongous amount of memory to run. We're talking about the standard SAP system is 85,000 tables. Not the 85,000 tables are going to be in memory. Only the important ones are going to be in memory, which are going to be mostly a big portion of these tables, right? So basically, what it needs to be unique on the way that HANA was designed and developed was not only the power of the memory that these systems require, but also the HANA appliance, as it was released from the beginning, was like a box including everything, not only the memory, but also the chipset is super important. Also the attached disk and the cards on that servers needed to be certified by SAP to run that particular technology on top. So what it made the X family so interesting was that they were designed to become memory intensive, especially for SAP HANA implementations.
So just to confirm, this family is completely certified to run SAP workloads, right? So I will have a full complete support from SAP while running on these instances.
But basically, if we look at the number of instance families we have on AWS, we have a wide range. But when it comes to AWS instances certified by SAP, we just have four big families, let's call it that way. We have the C family, which are compute optimized, the M family, let's say medium, the R family, which is my favorite, which are memory optimized. It's bigger in memory compared to the ratio to CPU. And then we have the X family, which are the ones that we were talking about, very focused on HANA implementations, which is a very peculiar database that requires this kind of power in the AWS world.
Can you share some more background around the AWS and SAP partnership or under the hood development that is happening? There are a lot of activities, right? These two big companies are cooperating very, very closely. Can you share some of these activities?
Yeah, well, SAP and AWS have a unique partnership. So let's say that SAP is focusing right now on 4 hyperscalers. the SAP itself was competing in the IaaS world until 2019, only on the SAP part. So if you wanted to host your SAP system on the SAP cloud, you could do so on an SAP data center until 2019. That SAP decided to get away from building data centers, because as you can imagine, and also it happens to Amazon and any other cloud vendor, it's very expensive to do. It's a very expensive thing to do, to run data centers. And essentially what they created is a project called Embrace, where they were opening up their SAP ecosystem to host any customer that wanted to do IaaS as part of the SAP offering on the cloud vendors. And that included 4 cloud vendors: AWS, Microsoft, Google, and Ali Cloud for China. So what it made unique AWS, and it's still today, is that if we look at the way that this partnership is working between SAP and AWS, it's very technically oriented, and AWS has a logo, has a go-to-market saying that they are customer obsessed. And if you look at how AWS develops their products for SAP, they commit to that logo, right? Because what they are trying to do, instead of trying to sell you something that you don't think that you require, but they are going to convince you that you require, what AWS is giving is solutions for customers for specific problems that they do have today. So on SAP world, what we see here is that the requirements that the SAP customers have on AWS are being solved by AWS in the way that the toolings that are being created on the platform are being released for these customers.
And what is can you share about the global availability? We know Amazon has the regions all over, and lots of kind of territories. Is the SAP capabilities available in everywhere? How should we expect it to be?
In terms of infrastructure as a service, where can I host my SAP environments? Any region that you see on this map is available for the customer. But what is also very interesting for the customers to know is that not only your SAP environment is going to be hosted, the customers we are being pushed by SAP to consume more SAP cloud services. And this slide, what we are saying right here, is the cloud regions from SAP, which are the ones in blue, are where I can deploy my SAP cloud services on AWS platform. Let's say if I want to deploy my SAP Analytics Cloud, I can do it in Frankfurt. And if I have my SAP environment running in Frankfurt on AWS, even they belong to different VPCs, they are on the same data center. And that's a very big benefit for SAP. As we just mentioned before, we don't need to brain out our minds to create data center to data center connection, because we are both of the services will be running on Frankfurt. So it's very important to understand that SAP Clouds, the SAP Cloud can be run on AWS, that AWS hosts more SAP services on AWS. SAP hosts more services on AWS more than on SAP itself, on SAP data centers itself. So we have more services available on Cloud Foundry for AWS compared to SAP Neo. And this is a huge benefit for customers that they can embrace today.
Thank you. As of understanding, how much memory is really necessary to run this SAP on AWS? And are there any tricks to do some savings? Because it can end up quite expensive. So what can I do to have this memory when needed, but also in certain cases save some of this cost of these high performance instances?
Yeah, well, there is a compression, right? Many customers run today on Oracle or SQL servers because they are very widely adopted databases, especially on the SAP world, and DB2, let's say. When we move to HANA, that this is something that will happen. There will be a compression. So we cannot expect that we run today on 20 terabytes on Oracle, we require 20 terabytes on HANA. So let's say that we have a 1 to 5 compression on HANA. So we are going to require 4 terabytes. And the reality is that what the customers need to understand is that AWS has been releasing servers to meet the demands for these customers to run their SAP platforms on top. Even if we see here that 24 terabytes is the bigger instance, to be honest, Lav, I haven't seen any 24 terabyte instance for HANA in my entire career. I have seen top 12 terabytes, top 12. 24 terabytes on a HANA system is a lot of information on a columnar database, because the difference between Oracle and HANA is that in Oracle, for example, you run indexes. On HANA, you don't have these indexes because as partially everything stays on a columnar database, you don't require additional index. This is not true for all the SAP products, but for the new SAP products, let's call the suite for HANA, SAP for S for HANA, BW for HANA, C for HANA. This is particularly not 100% true, but very close to the reality. And what we do have, that's on the transactional part. And what we do have on the analytical part, that as we can scale out, that means that instead of making my box bigger, I can create more boxes, one close to each other, to create like a cluster of HANA service database to give my system. And I think that they went up to 100 terabytes, which is humongous. I mean, only for testing performances, I don't think that no one can have gone that high in any time. But
it sounds very modern, the scale out approach, and this is what I think customers are mostly looking for, to modernize and be able to really scale out. I think this sounds like a big hope and big promise to customers to start scale out rather than scale up.
It's important to see on this slide that we are looking that any customer that wants to do an S4HANA implementation, S4HANA migration, the way that SAP has been estimating the growth in the past, it's called sizing, right? What we had to do is a projection, an estimation of how my business was going to behave in the 4 or 5 next years. Do you believe that this is something that we want to do today? It's not going to happen. So what we do want today is to have a system that is meeting my requirements today. If I need to grow tomorrow, can I grow tomorrow easily? HANA, if I purchase the servers to have it in the on-premise, I really need to estimate how big I'm going to be. And probably I'm going to overcommit. I'm going to over provision myself that HANA environment, because in 2 years, 3 years, I expect that my business is going to grow. And the cloud doesn't operate that way. So what we do is we provide the minimum viable product for the customer. And in case the customer requires more, we can easily scale.
Yes, I mean, let's say I started on an instance with 12 gigabyte, let's say 6 terabyte of memory, and I need to change after 6 months. What would I do?
Well, essentially, if that environment is 6 terabyte, we can do a change from 6 to 9 terabyte instance in an easy reboot. I'm going to say it's not going to be a 2 minutes reboot, because that HANA environment is going to take a while. But let's say that in less than half a day, we are going to have our environment running in 9 terabytes. It's not even a migration.
Interesting. Good. So I do want to touch on how does a customer journey look like, and when we see customers, how do we help these customers to really benefit from all we heard now from Mario? So as a company, we work with lots of customers on their journey to the cloud. We work with customers on the exploration phase, help them to really test, to understand the values of the cloud, through different kind of POCs, different experiments to understand the value of the cloud, either it's for SAP purposes or for other cases. So once customer then understand that they do want to start and consume the cloud, we work very close with them on the enablement part and setting up the foundations of the cloud operation. And the far most important thing is to educate the customer and to train them and to build their internal cloud center of excellence, which can then run this journey within the company. No matter how good is your partner, we need the people from the company, from the customer side, to be part of it. So together we build this cloud center of excellence. We establish a security baseline with everything ready to accept the meaningful workload like SAP. Then we turn into the real migrations. That's where we work very close with Linke to move these SAP environments to the cloud, and then further going down the optimization, innovation. But what I want to say altogether, this is a journey. There are key steps to go through. And my recommendation to everyone is really build the internal skills on leveraging the cloud, and then you will see how you can really benefit from this journey. And I want to ask you, Mario, what is specifically happening in the SAP migration?
Well, in SAP migration always starts with an assessment, so it's a little bit different. So on how to do an SAP migration compared to a migration of many other applications, because it's a mix between DevOps and waterfall. So we are a mix of an agile and a waterfall methodology. But even in the SAP case, we do a first assessment. We want to understand where the customer is coming from, what are their particular SAP products, versions, OS, database combination, and to understand what needs to happen as part of this migration to the cloud, where the cloud can help that particular SAP customer, which products will need to be migrated and when. What is the requirement that the customer has in order to do this migration project? Does it has an end life cycle for their infrastructure, or do they require do they have performance issues, or they want to change the database and leverage HANA? Then we do a deep dive. We go through the details, the specs on a secondary approach. We create a migration plan afterwards on how long is it going to take, how many people needs to be involved in that project, how much testing it's going to be necessary, because any SAP project, any migration even to the cloud is going to require some testing, at least on the networking side, even we don't change the version of the product. But there are many changes on the versions of the product as we move to the cloud. We try to leverage the SAP change of the products if we are allowed to do so. And then we do have a migration go live, right, where we can do more big bang, or we can do more a phased approach, that we can take some systems first and then some system later. But what we always want to make sure is that we need to treat every customer, let's say, in a horizontal way. So we don't say, we prefer to say that we are going to migrate a complete set of development or quality systems, rather than saying that we are going to migrate a complete ERP system, and then after we migrate ERP, we are going to migrate business warehouse, right? So what we want to do is to take the complete vertical of development systems or sandbox systems, and plan to do on how to do this on a timeline period, because this is going to help in terms of testing.
So I want to just give all the audience an idea. So how do we collaborate together, and how does a real customer experience look like when we deliver a project? So as you see in front of you, we are working very, very clearly, and there are certain areas that each one of us is responsible for. But I think what's good, as you see from this conversation, we have a lot of experience operating together, and I think this is the fun part of it. So as AllCloud, being an infrastructure expert, we are taking care for the whole security aspect. What's so-called in the Amazonian term is establishing the landing zone. It is basically building all the security foundations and compliance foundations for the company to run on AWS, making sure that you are closely maintaining your compliance. We're also then responsible for setting up the whole core infrastructure and the other application stacks for the migrations. However, and we do, of course, provide managed services to these environments, and to make sure that, if you do want us to be involved in your day-to-day operation, this is what we cover. And what we can see here, that the SAP part, we keep it relatively specific, and this is where Linke is partnering. So Mike, can you describe your part when we operate together?
Yeah, well, basically on SAP, we require an intense preparation for the landscape for the customer to run. So we cannot expect to drop our SAP systems on the cloud and expect that everything is going to work seamlessly. So we require that that the customer has done a good VPC, a good landing zone, that they understand how to operate the cloud, that they understand how to deploy our services, the IP addresses, the registration of the servers in the Active Directory. So everything in the cloud has, even we are automating, and we make the things to be deployed easier than compared to what we do in the on-premise. We don't want to come into an effect that I called the Minecraft effect, where we are constantly building and breaking things until we find the final solution, right? Because in SAP is not the way it works. Maybe other applications can be more tolerant to this kind of building bullocks, but the SAP is definitely not one of those. So we require to be part of a very strong offering from managed services like the one that AllCloud provides, to give the customer the perfect value on the SAP managed services that we need to provide. Because if we look at AllCloud and Linke, the way that the companies are, both of them are built, previously, like 20 years ago, both the companies should be, 4-5 times bigger to give all the customers the same level of engagement that we are providing today. And the way that we do, that we provide this level of Excel for the customers is based on proficiency and automation. And what we need to make sure is that all this proficiency and automation is powered and it's understood to become a part of a solution that is going to be value for the customer.
Who is providing the SAP bases in these cases? How does it work?
any customer has its own requirements. So some customers do have SAP Basis. It only manages the application part. And the SAP Basis, if it only manages the application part, is not going to suffer any change in their day-to-day work. If the SAP Basis is part of a wider team that takes care of the operative system or the database management, then a lot of things change as part of the cloud. 15 years ago, when we were providing patches to our servers, we had to go server by server to apply the patches, and we were normally going development first, quality then later, and then production, and then the database. And on each particular technology, we had to go on a very particular way. Today, everything that we do, we're going to do that on using automation tools like Chef or Salt, or for cloud provisioning using Terraform. That means that if the customer comes tomorrow and say, I need 20 servers to do proof of concept for one spin-off that I want to do, we don't go and say, no, I need 3 months to provide you that. If everything is automated and we have the recipes and we have the Terraform or the CloudFormation tools, we can provide. It's up to the customer. What it's needed by the business is going to be provided if we currently use the automation.
So I know Linke has a few superpowers which are really SAP specific on AWS. Can you quickly brief us through what are the key services or offerings you have for the SAP operation on AWS?
Well, we don't want to give our customers the migration to the cloud. We from day one, we also wanted to give them value once they were operating on AWS, how to embrace more AWS services out from their SAP infrastructure. And to do so, we started developing some of the products. Some of them are self-explained, like for example, the HA for SAP is a combination of products from AWS that can help you operate your SAP system in a cloud-native high availability mode without having clusters in the middle. But I want to focus on one on the top left called the AWS connector for SAP. The AWS connector, it's an add-on certified by SAP. It's the only add-on certified by SAP that can connect the SAP NetWeaver ABAP system to AWS on that particular case. There is no other add-on on SAP that can connect to AWS or Azure or Google. And it's available on the marketplace and on the SAP App Store. What is important, it was developed to give the customers an answer on how to, for example, leave my PDFs, images out of the database. So we connected S3 as the first service available to be called from ABAP infrastructure. But since we started getting more customers into this product, more services started to be added to this add-on. And today you can call many other services of AWS from that particular add-on. So I think it's very interesting for customers that want to build data lakes, that want to use their SAP information from other or call other SAP, AWS services from SAP to take a look and to say whatever they think it will give benefit for their business in order to see how we can start consuming more AWS services from the SAP platform itself.
Mario, I want to rush because we are reaching the top of the hour. I do want to give a chance for questions. Let's see. I see we have a couple of questions came in. Oh, interesting one was my ERP is normally running the most mission critical and secure, business information. How is it addressed on the cloud? So let me pick it up. So by building a proper foundations on AWS, and given that AWS itself is a very secure environment, and a lot of organizations they already understand that yes, the cloud is more secure than other environments. Definitely building the proper settings on AWS, and it doesn't take much, especially if you use pre-built solutions like one we have actually is posted on Amazon Solution Space, is giving customers the end-to-end assurance that the environment is really secure and meeting their compliance needs. If somebody wants to jump in and unmute and shoot a question, you're very welcome. I see there's another written question. What is the maximum system memory that I can use on AWS? What's the limit there, Mario?
Well, if we are talking about the database memory for HANA, for example, we can say that today is up to 24 terabytes. Even I believe that there is S4HANA, as we can scale out the S4HANA. S4HANA has gone up to 50 terabytes, if I remember correctly. And BW for HANA, as it can scale out, it can be up to 100 terabytes. So the answer is a lot. And what we need to make sure is that even Amazon is trying to create bigger instances, and I don't think that they are going to go for 50 terabyte system because they are only going to do that once they see that they really have customer demand to do so. What I'm sure is that the AWS is providing a breadth on different memory sizes for the HANA for the customers, which are in a range from half a terabyte to 4 terabytes, which is mainly 95% of the customers that we are talking to.
I want to take the last question. What is happening with licensing? Does AWS offer, and I'm saying this question is, does AWS offer SAP licensing, or what is happening there?
No. AWS on SAP have on AWS they have their own bring your own license. SAP has a very different ways of licensing its products. Some of the products are licensed based on the number of users. Some others are based on the number of cores, for example, where we need to be very careful with the instances that we're going to create for these customers. So once we go through the deep dive for the customers, we make sure that all of them we are aligned with the let's say the licensing team of the customer to make sure that everything that we're going to build on AWS is aligned with the SAP licenses that the customer has. What we also want to tell the customers is that many of them already have HANA licenses, because SAP has been very good at selling HANA licenses in the last years, but they haven't been using that because they are still relying on their own databases, like SQL Server, Oracle, DB2, or whatever. And what they want, what they can do is to do this proof of concept, how big my environment is going to look like in HANA. And I wanted to mention to these customers that there are some incentives, there are some products or services from AWS that we can use to help these customers to do these proof of concepts, to do this assessment as part of AllCloud and Linke, we are part of the SAP migration application program for SAP, where we can help these customers to do this, not only do this proof of concept, but also to assess this future migration. How is it going to look like? Just to understand for these customers that they are being backed up from AWS using its partners, using AllCloud and Linke, and we are happy to do so if that is necessary.
Right. So I mean, maybe that's a good point. And for the closing, for those customers who are interested to proceed further, definitely there are good ways to do that, and there are very attractive ways to do today to offset some of the cost of these migrations and testing. And with that, thank you, Mario, for the time, for the interesting conversation. And to the rest of the audience, we look forward to hear from you and talk to you about your very specific needs on your journey to the cloud. Thank you, Mario.
Thank you so much, Lav. It was a pleasure to talk to you as always, and I hope to talk to you soon as well.
We will. I'm very sure. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Take care.
Bye.